There are years when occasionally it'll be in the 90s. I remember in October when we had a wonderful week of 90-degree weather in October. I was in Florida. It was warmer here than it was there. So this chart, this one, gives the minimum, maximum, average temperatures. So this is 2022. There were 12 days in September in which it was in the 80s. The minimum, or the high minimum temperature in September is 68. In 2021, there were 13 days that were in the 80s, and the highest minimum temperature was 66. This also gives at the bottom of this the averages of temperatures, both for minimum and maximum. And then in 2020, there were 12 days in the 80s, and the highest minimum was 71 and 72. So thinking about heating the pool, in September, and especially if you're only going to be using it on the weekends, I imagine it's probably going to have to be heated during the week, and it has to be continued to be circulated. That's going to be a huge cost for the city if it's only going to be used possibly on the weekends. And my concerns with this process has been the lack of public input. At no time during this pool design was the public curied into on what they want in a pool. The previous input that we had on the master plan, and I think Pickering at one time got some public input when they were looking at their pool. That was not taken into consideration. At no time did the pool committee come to City Council and ask for input. Councilman Mancuso offered to serve on the pool committee, and that was ignored, even with his education, his experience, and his expertise. Steve Black is the only person that was on the pool committee that had any knowledge at all. I think that what's going on now is a direct result of that. I think it was obvious when the presentation from Omni with Martin Aquatics on Zoom, when the presentation was made, and council had no idea what was going to come.
Your time is up.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Brenda Powell.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Powell, and I live at 1409 31st Street. I just wanted to touch basis on a few things that are on the agenda this evening. Actually, with the sidewalk repair and replacement, I just wanted to make a couple suggestions, like possibly funding with the CDBG, ARP, and Streetscape to actually provide sidewalks in some of the streets that are desperately needed here in Vienna. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you to maybe think about. Another thing is about under the discussion with the city recreation programs, I just wanted to mention about the dog parks and maybe the possibility of them being able to be moved over across from the city building or the community building and use those back property for maybe soccer fields or baseball fields. Another thing that Bud and I had talked about is there a possibility that maybe that McDonough Foundation could be approached and maybe use the meadow that's in the bottom there as soccer fields, but maybe that they would allow the city to use that property for soccer fields. So that was just something else I wanted to throw out there that maybe you might consider. Also, I wanted to say something about the liaison with the resolution. I have an issue with this, and the fact that I feel that liaisons being in the middle between the department heads and another council person, it could lead to possibly the council person not being able to get the information that they're wanting from the department head. I could see that might be an issue, and I really don't think that this resolution would be something to be considered. Another thing is, I wanted to check about the financing part of the pool. I'm hoping, it was saying that tonight that you're going to be talking about the financing and whatnot, but I wanted to see if it was considered, and if it hasn't, maybe it can still be, applying for a federal land and water conservation fund grant, as Parkersburg did. They received last year over $300,000 towards the Southwood Pool project. So I wanted to, hopefully, that if you haven't applied for that, you might apply for that, to put towards that. The slides, I know those are a big issue, and I have a concern with the fact that the height of it, and somebody having 3 people, either 3 lifeguards or just 3 people, maybe 1 lifeguard, 2 people and 1 lifeguard, but to actually oversee that whole situation, because you're going to have to check the height requirement at the bottom. There'll have to be a control type situation up the steps to where that they're not really congregating, and somebody at the top to oversee them getting from the next platform into where the actual pool or the actual slides are. And I noticed that you can't see it very well on the picture, but it's like a little narrow walkway that goes from the second platform over to where the kids would get on and go down the slide. There just needs to be, a lot of supervision, in my opinion, for that. And also, you have an open concept with a slide, and you have a tube for another slide.